Welcome to Watercolors with Karen. I am so excited about what we're going to paint today. It is going to be this horse. I will show you our reference photo. This is our reference photo. This is going to be an extra long one. It will be divided into two different parts. That way, if you want to do one day, one the next, probably try to get it about 1 hour and 15 minutes each. So we're still going to work fairly quickly, but always remember you can slow down the speed and or pause it and just paint right along with me. So I'm very excited about this horse and I want to get started. Now I've sealed down my edges of tape on, it's like a gator board, it's actually called stay board that I get from my local craft store. And I'm using artist tape here. And I have used a mask, and I've showed you that in previous videos, that I have masked out some of his eyelashes, a highlight, and some of the forelock here, and a little bit of the mane. So I am pretty excited to get started on this. So one thing that I always like to do is make sure we get the eye in first. So that's what we're going to work on, is the eye. And this is 300-pound cold press, just so you know what we're working with. All right, so I like to start the eye with a very light color. We're going to mix a little raw sienna and a little bit of yellow ochre. Now, is his eye that color? Absolutely not. However, this is just going to be our base coat. So we're going to make this eye a nice light color first. There we go. And then I'm going to drop in a really nice warm color, and I'm going to use Quin Burnt Orange. Quin Burnt Orange is made by Daniel Smith. It's just, you'll hear me using a lot of the same colors because these are my go-to colors. I absolutely love them. Now you'll notice that I am using this while it's still wet. And I'm literally just floating that in there. Now I guarantee you this eye is going to have a lot of work before we're done. We'll come in, we'll go back out, because now we have to let it dry before we do anything else. So this is just the first start of this eye. And the next step I want to do, we're going to go to a little bit bigger of a brush. Nope, actually, I'm changing my mind. We're going to do the background while we're waiting for that eye to dry. So I'm using my favorite background brush, which is number 14 Escoda Reserve. It's a Kolinsky brush, and I use it simply because it holds so much water. And this is what we're going to be doing. We're just going to put pure water on this whole entire outside of our horse. Now, if you noticed on my reference photo, this horse is outside and there's some little trees in the background. They have leaves on them, but we're just going to do eventually some outline of our trunks and a little bit of green in the sky, a little bit of blue in the sky. So I'm just going around this horse's head, and I'm using a lot of water. I'm using a lot of water because I want to have time for my background to mingle in the different colors. And if I get a lot of water, I can do that, and I don't have to be in a big hurry. And at the end of getting our background in, we'll go to the blow dryer and we'll finish drying that. But right now, lots of water, just to prepare for my background. So that's what we're doing. I'm just going a little bit slow around my horse. If I get a little bit in on my horse, it's not a big deal. But if I can save myself time of not getting it into my horse and taking my time and slowing down, this would be a better thing. So this particular horse was on a little escapade with my sister. We went out into the country, and several of my pictures have been lately because I've been in the country and gotten permission to take pictures of people's cows and horses. And this particular horse, such a beautiful paint horse. I love paint horses. I think they're so lovely with the spots on him. And we may go a little bit lighter than this paint horse, but we'll still get the general idea of what we want to do here. Okay, that should be wet enough. Now, while that's soaking in, what I would like to do is mix a mixture of some raw sienna. This is going to be my background. Some raw sienna. And we're going to just get a really nice wide mix here. And looks like I have a visitor here. Okay. So that first, and I'm just going to put blotches of the raw sienna down. And we're also going to use some sky blue. So I'm just kind of mixing it around here. I'm leaving some spaces here and there because I want to have a little bit of white for the sky. I'm going to slip over here and get this color called Horizon Blue. It makes a great color for sky. Now I have to be a little careful because it can get a little green where I've got my yellow areas. But I just want this sky to peek through in certain areas here. And we're going to also add a green. But first I want just a little more of this Horizon Blue. Now remember, your background's always dry lighter. So I want to make sure now I'm going to pull this yellow down here. We'll put some green on top of that. So this raw sienna, I find myself using this more and more. This particular one, Winsor Newton makes it. It's just become a really color that I enjoy using, and I like the way you can see through it and still mixes really well with other colors. Okay, so now I want to drop some green, and I think what we're going to do is do this permanent green right up here. This is just to represent some trees, and I especially want some right around this horse's head, or eye I should say, because we want the idea that there's some trees in the background, which there was in this picture. Now, always remember, just because the picture shows you certain things, you don't have to always do what the picture shows us, but it is kind of fun to have it as a reference. Now, when I get really super wet like this, I find my tape lifts up just a little bit. And I want to do, down below, I'm going to add a little of this Quin Burnt Orange, what we dropped into the eye. I just want this part to make us think that he is standing a little bit in a field, but there's some greenery, which there was some greenery as well because it's springtime. So we're going to go back to that green and just mix a little bit of this here and there. So we have a nice color variety. This should dry out pretty. All right, let me drop just a teeny bit more of this blue, this Horizon Blue, right up in the right-hand corner. So I really like that. And I might put a little bit more there. Maybe just a dab here. That'll just ring around the ears in a nice way. I don't want to bring the sky down here because it will look like there's nothing behind, but this should work out good. Maybe just add a little teeny bit more of the Quin Burnt Orange, and then we should pretty much be done, except for drying. Now, you see when I have it this wet, how we need to really get these edges all taken care of, because it will take forever to dry, and it will anyway, but I'm going to sop up a little extra right here that I see I got it a little bit heavy. Right here, just go along the edges. It may make a strange sound where I'm taking that off, but bear with me a little bit. Now, of course, I didn't get in any of the horse, which is what I didn't want to do, which that works out really good. We didn't. So up here, my tape will come loose if I've got it too wet, and I do have this pretty wet. So I might go back here, especially where it wants to lift. I've not found a tape yet when I wet it this wet that stayed completely. Yeah, it wants to lift, but I'm going to blow dry it and not worry about it for right now. Okay, I'm going to lift that off again a little bit. I got a little extra there. Well, I look at this eye right now myself and I go like, ooh, that does not look like a horse eye, but trust me, it will before we're done. So let's get the blow dryer on it and then we'll get back and start painting this horse. All right, we are done with the blow drying and I realized that I forgot to put my tree trunks in the background, so we may or may not put them in. Right now we're not going to. We're going to get started on our horse. So I want a little bit bigger of a brush and we're going to start with that same color, a mix of the raw sienna, and we're going to make a mix of yellow ochre. Now this may sound really strange because you don't even see the horse this color, but I'm going to go in all the light areas everywhere, or the brown areas I should say, on this horse, so I know exactly where to leave the white. So that's what I'm doing right now. Put a little bit in here and in here, and we'll go around this entire horse just with the lighter areas. Anywhere, like I said, that it's white, like this area here on the forehead, we're going to leave white. We're not even going to touch that. And I missed a line here. I see this. Goodness, I'm certainly not looking like I'm totally prepared. But I think these kind of things are a good thing because you can see that it's easily fixable. And I'm just going to put it in right here. His little forelock, it's not a forelock, but this part comes down. I got the rest of it, I just missed that one area. So that's okay because now we have it. I actually painted this the other day, got the entire video done of the horse, and realized that I got my iPad way too close and you couldn't see the ears and it cut off on me soon. So that was a little disappointing. So I'm painting this for the second time, but that's good in a way because just that much more practice. And you know, I feel like I never want to make you feel like, oh my gosh, I have it all together when I do these paintings, because I can make mistakes just like you can make mistakes. And the bottom line is, can we fix them? Yes, we can. And so if we know we have that going for us, then we don't have to worry about it. And I hope you'll feel that same way. Adding just a little more paint so I can get all the way, leaving this part white. And then this part actually goes brown right down here. And we'll go ahead around the nostrils. This is all going to be different varying shades of brown. Now, one thing you're going to see when we get into this painting is you're going to see an awful lot of layers. We've got a lot of layers to make this horse look the way it needs to look. And now the brown comes here, and this part right here is white. So we're going to leave that. And there's this little patch of brown. And this in here is a patch of white. So I want to, let's see. So this one is white, brown, okay. And this has to be, I gotta make sure I'm doing the right one. That's brown, this stays white. So along this edge here, right here, this goes back to dark brown. You'll see I have some masked out there for where his mane comes down. So we'll just go right up, leave all that area white, go close to it though. And there's a little bit of lightness here, but it's just very faint. So we'll put that here. And then this brown comes down here. This little patch is white on this particular horse. Anyway, this day that we went out there was a beautiful spring day. Oh, so pretty. And it felt so good to get out. However, what I didn't like, there was flies everywhere on the animals. Yuck. And I guess you can expect that in the springtime. And they were everywhere. There we go. And even the cow pictures I got, ugh, they had so many flies on them. They couldn't help it. I mean, and the owners were wonderful owners. It just happens. And with a horse, you can put a fly guard over their eyes, but the little cows, they just had a little more struggle with the flies. I just don't like flies, but they seem dirty. So anyway, okay, that's our first coat. Now let's go back to the eye because we know that's going to be nice and dry. And I want to put a little bit darker brown first. So we're going to go to our burnt umber and mix this up first, and then we're going to go to the pupil. But first I want a little bit darker here. I want to leave a little edge that's lighter at the bottom. So we're going to come close to here, just like that. Maybe come a little closer. I'm looking at my reference photo. You'll see me looking up often to look at my reference photo because I feel like that's going to be my guide to get us a good picture. Now I'm going to let that set for just a moment while I mix up some sepia, which is a really, really dark brown, and a little bit of Payne's Gray. And the two of it makes a really nice dark pupil color or black color. We don't need a whole lot. I'm letting that set a little bit. I'm purposely, I want it to be damp because I want it to spread out. And when it spreads out, it'll give it a real soft, feathery look around the eye. But I wanted to wait just a little bit. I didn't want it to spread out too much. So here we go with this eye part. Now, if you'll notice, I masked a highlight in there, which I think is really, really important. And again, remember, at this point, this looks really not so professional, but it will look good eventually. I promise you that. It's just we got to get past this part right here. And we're going to outline. This is right above where his little eyelashes would go, right in there. And above those eyelashes, this horse would have a little bit of a lighter brow. So I'm mixing a little bit of that yellow that we just coated the horse with, just to get a light look. I know it's going to run into my dark a little bit, but not too much. Well, maybe more than I wanted it to. Usually, if I wait just a minute and be patient, I won't get that, but that's okay. We'll let that set for just a minute. And then above that is too soon because I saw how quickly that was going to spread. But what we will do is soften this out right here on this edge where that's going to come down, and there's going to be some dark that's going to come down here next to that eye. And there's another color that goes here, but I'm just going to kind of tickle this dark down a little bit underneath here. Okay. When it's going to really look nice is when we get those eyelashes uncovered and when we get some more detail. Right now it doesn't look great, but it will. Okay, so I would like to go up to the ears and do those first. So we're going to go to our Quinburnt Orange, and that's a little too orange for this. It's a great color, but we need to add just a little bit of burnt umber in this. So a little burnt umber, a little Quinburnt Orange. Now I'm going to work wet on wet in this area because I want these to be really soft ears. So the first thing we're going to do is go along this edge here, come up just like this, and I want to leave this really soft area here. And I'm going to soften this part out. I will be going back several times on these ears. So this is just the first part to get this going. I want to soften along here where the light comes a little softer on the outside edge of this horse's ear. But I want to leave that light, but tickle this down so it has a soft edge. It doesn't have a hard edge. Now, like I said, we'll see some really dark coming in there, but not yet. And let's finish this along the edge here. Right down there. We'll just leave a little bit of light in there. And then some of this coming off the ear is his mane. So we're just going to put this in kind of like this and let it go for a while. We're not ready to go back to that. And when I'm ready to let stuff go, I simply go at the bottom and I soften out until I'm ready to come back and finish that. So that's just the first pass of the ear. It doesn't look very stunning or anything, and I know that, but it will. So be patient with me so we can go step by step and you can see how really easy this is. And I have a friend that's done several of my videos, and like the suggestion that she said that she uses is she just goes at her own pace. And so sometimes she'll slow down, sometimes she'll speed up a little bit if she gets what I'm doing. And I hope you can feel that freedom to do the same thing, because that is a good way to do it. You just take your time. If you need to paint it over 3 days, paint it over 3 days. I'm just trying to get this video to where you can get it and do it at your own pace. So when you have it available to you, like we are trying to do, I say we because I have a really, really good guy that edits my videos and gets them all ready for YouTube. I am not very technical, that's the truth. Just let me have paper and be able to paint, but when it comes to the techie part, whew, I am not very good. His name is Tyler, and he has been amazing, and I just have thanked him on a couple of my Facebook posts because I really appreciate his expertise. All right, so now we're going to let that set for a little bit. It's by no means done. And we're going to go back now to his face. And I want to use some of this nice darker mixture. So I'm going to mix a little more of this Quinburnt orange up. And I just want to once again caution you that for a while, this is going to seem like forever because we are working on layers. So just bear with me a little bit and let's go and just do it step by step. Okay, so first thing right here on his face, we're going to come down. We want to make sure and keep that white. So I'm just going to take this step down here. Now on this little horse, this color is really, really a good color, but I want to drop some other colors in here while it's still wet. So I'm going to go back up, and this time I'm going to go a little bit of the yellow ochre, and I want to put, it won't stay this light, but I just want to drop a little bit here where it's lighter, right in here, so I don't forget and go too dark on that part. Again, I'm not ready to finish that yet, so I'm going to just take my brush and get a soft line. Same thing here, but as I told you, I want to get a little bit darker. So I'm starting to get a blossom because I went in on the edge of this. But if you start to get a blossom, anytime you do that, don't worry as long as you use a darker color. So I'm going to actually mix this, I believe it's a mineral violet, in with my already nice mix, because right in here it goes definitely darker. and I want a little bit of that, and see that just took that blossom away. Now if I went lighter or scooted my damp brush over it, I would be in trouble. But right now, doing what I am doing is going to be okay. And I want that to meet about right there and come down here where it's definitely darker. And we can probably go to about right that little part, which I want to be lighter. So I'm going to tickle this down here and stop about right here. This is not going to be the final color. This is just getting darker gradually. Again, any stopping zones that you're not ready to finish that, just do a little line just on the outside edge. You see that, where that gives me a good stopping zone and it keeps it soft. Now it's not soft on this edge. I will go onto this edge and do it. However, I don't want to get into my white, because if I get into my white, it's going to travel that color where I don't want it. So we'll just do that. Ooh, I almost dropped my brush. That wouldn't have been good. All right, so right there, and we'll leave that there, and this is fine to be hard along this edge. Okay, so I really like this color mix, and I think we're going to get some of this darker, the same mix down below. So again, Quin Burnt Orange, and we've got our Burnt Umber, and I'm going to go back into that Mineral Violet. And you probably think, why in the world do you want to do Mineral Violet? But look how rich that looks. And also I will be getting some sepia in these darker areas. This is just the start of it. So right where I have put these areas to retain my white, I want to make sure that I get back in those areas now too. Okay. And this is why it also helps from the beginning to go and to find out where exactly you're going to put that light color, where you're going to want to leave it white. So, because it can get confusing when you're working fast and you're like, oh man, was that white or was that dark? So this is just a great way to kind of map out, I want to say, that area. So what I'm going to do is just tickle that area a little bit here, and right in here I'm just going to bring a little of this up right in there. Okay, so back to this heavy-duty mixture. We've got this. We know this is white, but we know right along here we want to leave this white, and it goes right at the top of there like that, and we'll come along here, and all of this is going to be much darker. Okay, just about there. And I keep looking at my reference photo, because easy to get lost even with my lines if you're not careful. Now, even though you'll see my lines running through white, which may seem a little strange, it's still a good idea, because that white is going to have some other color in it. It won't be pure white. There was a little teeny bit of light right there, so I left that. And this is white, so we're going to leave that. Okay. Now I guarantee you that we will come with some darker darks here, but as long as I get this first coat down, literally second coat, I think it'll help us all to know exactly where we want to go. Now look at this, I'm running out of mix, so if I just work fast, oops, this color here. If I work fast, I'm going to be okay, and it will work out just fine where I can add this back in here. So that's what I'm going to do. Remember, if I'm worried about a blossom, as long as I go darker over it, I'm okay. So that's a good rule to remember, because you don't want a blossom in a horse. Now, you may want a blossom if you're doing a bunch of flowers, but you don't really want one on a horse. So it's fixable. I wanted you to see that it's fixable. Okay, we're going to leave that. Now, because I mixed up some more of this area, and this part, some of it goes lighter, so we'll just add a little more water and take this mix here, take it up to my white. We'll always come back and we can go darker. But for right now, I just want to establish some of these lighter areas. We'll even take it down right to there. It's like that. Now the eye is nice and dry, so it is not a problem. Works good on this. I'm adding a little bit of water to thin this mixture even more as I'm going around here to retain my white. Have a little bit of this up here, not too much. I want to keep some of that white, or the lines that I painstakingly masked in for part of his mane. Okay, getting there. Now, like I said, at this stage, it just looks kind of like a, I don't know, a quilt that's not finished, kind of a stringy, unkempt, not so good, but it will look good. You have to trust me on this one, and trust yourself when you're painting something like this, that even though you're thinking right now, oh, I might have blown it, it just doesn't look the way I want it to look. Just keep up at it and just keep working at it until you get just what you want. And step by step, pretty soon, things start to make sense. So we'll pull that down just a little bit. Now we've got our nice white there retained. We're going to take this right around the nose. I'm not going to do the nose just yet. We're not ready for that step. But we will bring it around the nose for now. And if you see, I'm kind of getting lighter here because I'm not ready to commit to the next step yet. Okay, so that's where we are. I got a little bit of a line here, but actually there's this really nice piece of light in here that I want to retain. Okay, now I did get a little bit of blossom when I came back through here, so it's still too wet to fix, but I can fix it just by taking the side of my brush and getting that out. But I'm not going to worry about it at this moment because really it's too wet, and if I did that, I'd create a new blossom. So I'd rather fix it when it's dry. So in the meantime, our ears are dry, so we can go back now and work on the eye, on the ears. So what I'm going to do is mix in this mixture some sepia. And sepia by itself is really pretty, but in this case, I want it mixed more with a little bit of other colors. And I think I'm going to go right now to a smaller brush so I can get that in really good. And I'm going to use a number 8. This is a long round by Princeton. It's a synthetic brush, but it's a really nice one for what I'm looking for. I use a mixture of some really ridiculously expensive brushes and some that are just really reasonable. And there's just a different purpose for both. Okay, so now with those ears, right here, I want to carry that nice dark that I see in my reference photo. So it's going to go all the way up to the tip of the ear. I'm leaving the outside a little bit light. So like that. And inside here, this horse has a little bit of darker here inside of his ear. And I kind of did a little negative painting right there because I want that to just look like there's some hairs in here. And some of this comes out like this and leaves a little bit of a patch. Now, this is more what I want here. So I'm going to rinse, dry my brush so I have just a damp brush. And I'm going to take this edge and I want it to flow in all the areas that I didn't paint. So I'm just literally allowing my brush to soften this area down and let it flow in here. So I have some nice light shapes. Now I'm going to take this same color, add just a little bit more of that sepia. And I want this ear, where I look at the picture, the reference photo, it actually comes down, this part is really dark before it starts. And some of that meets right in there. Okay, and that is good, except for that would leave me a really hard line, and I don't want that. So on both sides of this ear, we are going to tickle this so we don't have a hard line. Okay, now, because some of that mane comes back there, we want to have a little bit of hairs like this, signifying some of that mane. But I want to leave these white spaces in here so you can kind of tell that there's some air capturing in between that. Now, this doesn't look very good right now, but eventually it will later. So we'll just, again, soften this because I don't want to do anything more to that yet. Now we're going to go back to those same dark colors and get that second ear done. Now on this one, the dark comes in more like this. And some of this is some hairs from his mane. So we're just going to come up here like this. I'm going to actually lift a little out right here where the light is coming through. So I'm just going to take my brush and lift out a little bit of that. And then the rest will remain dark. Okay, I may come back even later and do something more. All right, so we want to have this part darker. This part goes darker. Comes down on the inside like this. He has a little bit of light coming in there. And then it goes really dark. So I need to go back to my sepia and pick up some real dark, dark, dark here. Now this is where I like to work wet on wet because I get the results that I really, really want. And I'm able to drop some other colors in here. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go to my yellow ochre. And on the outside of this edge, I see a little bit of yellow ochre. So I want it to be a little lighter. That kind of creeped in there a little bit. So I'm going to lift it. I think I'll be able to get the results here. Just drop that in. I've got awful dark, so I have to be kind of careful. And here, I want to soften this down so this just kind of mingles in here and in this area. So I'm going to lift a little more out on that side. Lift a little more out here. And right now, just soften this out where the mane comes in. I still am going to come back in a little bit and lift a little more out. But that's all I can do for right now. Now, let's go to right in here. I'm going to use that same dark brown because it goes very, very dark right in here. And it comes right out where our white starts here. Now, this is a good place where I could do just soften right in here because we want this forelock here that comes down into this white patch. I know there's a name for it, but I could not tell you what that name is right now. But I really want this white to look very soft. Goodness, I wish I had the terms for it, but I'm sure that if some of you make comments, you can tell me on the comments. And I always appreciate when people make comments on my actual page because it kind of lets me know where you like to paint or where you want to go with this, or if you're even enjoying it. But be kind. I think we're in a world where people's opinions sometimes are good, but not when they start to borderline on cruel, or then it kind of takes some of the delight out of trying to do this. But hopefully I don't get that kind. Haven't so far, so hopefully you're enjoying this. So you see where I started with the dark brown. Now I want to have a little of this Quinburnt orange down here. So now we're starting to get into some of these areas where we can refine them a little bit. Now the edge of his eye, if you'll, let me show you the photo reference, is actually lighter right there. So we're going to make it darker here. Here's where the Quinburnt orange comes in. We're going to work on that to get that coming down. So while that's still wet, I can dip in a little of this and go. I can just drop it in. Remember, I'm okay of not blossoming when it's already wet and I'm going darker. So that kind of comes down to about right there. And I want to soften this down, maybe even add just a little bit of my pale color right here and carry that through where it goes lighter on his eye, which we can't see on the other side because of the place, or the direction I should say, that he was standing when I took the picture. But that should give us, and that just mingles right in there. And if I want to bring that out just a little bit more, it's wet enough I can still do that. Just bring that down. And that's where my white stops, right in there. So we'll just leave that. And we'll pick up back down here as kind of a medium brown. So we'll pick this up right here. A little bit more water here. Okay. And on this I want a little bit of red again, so I'm going to go back to my Quinburnt orange and just drop this in so you get the idea. See, I've mingled those two colors together, and don't those look pretty? And I like that. I like that aspect of being able to take wet on wet and just let them mingle. They look so, so good. All right. And we'll just let the stopping zone be down right here. There we go. Okay, we'll come back to that later. Now, I want to go back to that eye because our eye is nice and dry. And part of above where I added that lighter color, but it kind of ran in together, I want to put, he's got this nice little line that makes some kind of arch like this. And then it comes right down really sharp. Now, I don't want to keep that as a hard line. Well, all of this goes really dark here. Again, when we take off that masking, that's when things start to come alive. We're going to soften this down here. I definitely want to soften that up there. Just getting the edge of that. There we go. Now I don't want to do into the eye yet because I put those darker colors, but I think I can drop, I'm going to go back to my sepia and go straight from there right along that eyelash. I still want to get it a little bit darker right in there. Okay, we may have to come back. Let's see, do I want to do that? I might make it just a teeny bit darker right where that pupil is. Yeah. Okay. Now above where we just made that kind of V shape there, it's kind of a light brown. So I'm going to use this brown that I have right here. We got a little bit of it here, but it isn't quite that light. And then there's a next layer here. So I'm going to add a little bit of water down here. So it's going to be purposely lighter. And right above here, we're going to go to our next level around his eye and soften that out. And you see I have some lines anyway to help guide me there. Now remember how we added that really dark brown there? I really like that. And I also see it's really dark right in this little V place right here. So we want to add that. Just kind of comes out by the ear. So we're making pretty good progress here. And you see that if you just have some patience, you can have yourself a really, really nice horse. I see that same color, going to add a little more sepia though, right underneath the ear here. It gets really dark right there. And then some of this is the hair that comes down. I'm going to still darken that even just a little bit more. It just comes kind of up like that. I'll just soften that a little bit. Soften that on the top. Okay. The second ear, I can totally see it needs some darker colors. And I don't know if it's, yep, it's dry enough. So we're going to go back to our sepia. This time though, I want to add a little bit more of that mineral violet I was telling you about and mix that in with my sepia, because I just want kind of a unique look. I might even put a little bit of Quinburnt orange in. So I want to make this lighter color come out a little bit more, so I'm going to do this little technique of a little bit of negative painting down here. We're going to make this really go dark, like I see it in the picture. And that dark comes right out here. So sometimes just adding a little bit of even any kind of a wine-colored mix or any kind of a mineral violet kind of mix will just really help darken stuff. And I'm really liking what I'm seeing now. In fact, I like that so much, I'd like to add just a smidgen of that in here as well. It's dry enough that I could just come back in and soften that out. Now, one thing, it looks like I lost a little bit of my line right here going up. So I want to recapture that. Goes right to the top like this. We'll just soften that little line down a little bit. And we lost a little bit down below. I want to keep that top part light where we lifted it. So I think if we just come down like that, we'll be able to retain that. And I do like that now. Now what I can do is lift out just a couple little areas here. So usually lifting out happens best when you take a nice damp brush and really dry it. And I just see a little bit of light area here that I want to just kind of soften out there. Okay, let me just check out and see what we have. As long as we have this really dark, I still want to put a little bit back here where I see a little kind of V shape. This is where some of the mane is coming down, and I see it really dark right here behind his head. I want it even darker, so I'm going to go back to that nice, deep, dark mix of sepia and the mineral violet. We'll soften that out until we're ready to come back to that. Again, these are just little touches that you can do as you work along. Look for shapes. Shapes are kind of fun, and you can just put in little different shapes here and there. Now, I guarantee you I want darker here and all in this little paint horse. We definitely have darker areas here. So as long as we have this mixture that's still pretty dark, I'd like to take some sepia here. I would definitely like to take some more of my Quin Burnt Orange. And I definitely want to take some more of that Mineral Violet and see what a rich, pretty color that does. And we're going to take it right in here, get that really, really dark. Now, where there's all these hard lines in this white, I'll show you what we'll eventually do. It'll be more towards the end. And remember, this will be a two-part video, so it may not be happening on the first part of the video, but on the second part, there's some really fun techniques that we can just do to soften a lot of these areas down. I'm going to go back on top of this I just did and make it even darker. Okay, so this mix is really good, and I want to carry this through. So we'll just keep on going down because this part of the horse is so dark, so dark. And I think I have plenty to carry me all the way down. Hopefully I do. Hopefully I don't have to mix up anymore, but if I do, you already know the mixture. So if you run into that problem too, you just mix it right up. Now, I said I wouldn't go into this, but this is getting a little harder than I want it to be. So I probably will go and show you what we'll do. I'm going to stop right here for a minute and just show you something. Okay, so remember, any stopping zone, just go ahead and mix. This is getting so hard, and skin would never do that, or white would never do that. So I'm taking this brush and I am going to soften it down a little bit. It's okay if a little of it goes in to my white, because whites are never perfectly white. Let's see, because this is going to be a hard line here and I didn't do it right away. I may have to use a scrubber brush there, but that's okay. But I know that this will be soft and I can get to it right away. So that's what I want to do. If a little of it tickles into, which is going to, if it's still wet, into your white, it already looks just softer on these lines here and it looks better. When you see areas like this, it's so important to get it natural looking. We'll probably have to work on these a little bit too. Sometimes I don't want to do this, and then other times I'm like, nah, you gotta do it. So okay, almost done with this. Now, this isn't softening here because we haven't put our color here. So we'll go back, mix some more. So remember, sepia, Quin Burnt Orange, and Mineral Violet. Now, there is different brands I found of Mineral Violets, and some I tend to like Holbein for Mineral Violet. There's all kinds. If you have a Mineral Violet on your palette, use it. And I found that by themselves, they have a tendency to dry a little bit dull, which I don't like that. So if you see it drying a little bit dull, just mix it with another color and you'll be amazed at what a difference you can get there. I want to come back up here with my Quin Burnt Orange. I have to hurry because I don't want that to dry out. So, but this just needs to be lighter up here where that mane comes in. And so I figured I should do it right now while I have it. And then I want to come right back to where I was. And remember, we stopped here at this point. So as soon as I finish this, we'll come back and we'll do the same thing, which will soften that all the way around and down here as well. And don't get too fast like I was starting to do here, because you don't want that to slip into your whites. Okay, but I am going to work fast here because I really want to finish this before I run out and get back to that other area so I can soften that. So when I work a little faster, I'm not using the tip, I'm using the side of my brush. And we probably will still go darker yet in some of these areas, but this again is step by step. You don't want to rush it. Don't want to rush the steps. This looks really red. Don't worry, we can come back and get that all taken care of too. Okay, so now rinse my brush out, go back to here so we can tickle these edges. Okay, that looks pretty nice. This looks like it's a little hard right here. Okay, and this would get hard here if we didn't do it too. So right in here, that should be good for now. Okay, where I have this really red, I don't want to mess with it yet because I'm going to actually put some strands down. And if I go into it now, it'll just separate more than I want to. But this is way too gold here, as you can tell. So we'll use some of this mix here, add a little bit of Quin Burnt Orange, and I think what we'll do, even though it's lighter there, we'll just take this down, tickle this into here, back where we already were. Just come up like this and bring some of this down. Okay. Now remember I said that here I have it a little bit, I got a little bit of a blossom. So that is nice and dry, so I am using just pure water, dipping it on my brush, and I literally will tickle that out. And sometimes it takes a little more water, and I'm using the side of my brush. And what I plan to do is get this really wet. And I should be able to cover that up a little bit. I've softened that edge first. We'll come down right here. Still want to leave this lighter here. And then down here it gets a little lighter too. We don't want it quite too light, but we want it to be better than what it is. Now this again is all mane, so I'm going to go up here and negative paint just a little bit here. Some of this anyway is going to be all masked out, so we'll just make a few extra. Come down here. There we go. All right, I'm going to check my time. So I am going to end this session and then we'll finish up at the next session.